Welcome to episode number 2 of To Shrink the World. I'm Dave.
I'm Jason.
And today we're going to talk about healthier marriages.
And if you recall, we are both therapists. That's what we do during the day. And then in the evening, we like to just kind of talk with one another about, the observations that we make about the world around us. And this is why we decided to do this podcast, to sort of share some of these observations with the world. Mm-hmm. So, as Dave mentioned, we are going to be discussing marriage, specifically what makes for healthy marriages.
Right, and healthier, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what you think of this, Jay. We want to avoid boxing up marriages or any relationship as either all healthy or all unhealthy, but we want to move towards healthier.
To your point, is how do we make these relationships more effective? How do we make the bond stronger? How do we make communication more clear? Mm-hmm. And of course, we know communication involves expression. Mm-hmm. How do we express ourselves in a way that's accurate? And how do we listen intentionally mm-hmm. to our partners?
As far as how we fulfill what we're looking for in our partner, as far as how it heals us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think subconsciously, in fact, there are a few models on this, especially Imago type of therapy. Harville mm-hmm. Hendricks was the founder of this. And what is it that we're looking for in the other person that actually helps us heal, or at least we're trying the attempt to heal some of the things that we're sensitive to and that we were hurt in our younger years.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I've heard that described, not specific to that particular model, but oftentimes we're entering into corrective relationships. Mm-hmm. We have the relationships of our upbringing, with our primary role models, our parents, mm-hmm. and there's obviously attachment injuries that can happen mm-hmm. as a result of that upbringing. And when we go off on our own and strike out and try to form our own relationships, we're looking for that almost that missing piece.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Completion.
Yes, someone who's going to help us with what we might consider our deficiencies, where mm-hmm. we struggle, mm-hmm. so that we don't have to struggle as much in that area, especially mm-hmm. in the area that we're sensitive and struggling in.
So what if this idea that, and maybe it sounds a little Freudian, women are going out and looking for their fathers, or men are going and looking for their mothers. I mean, I know that's a kind of maybe a gross generalization, but you kind of hear that sort of language. What do you think that kind of means, or what does that refer to?
I don't think that it's gender related. Mm-hmm. I think it's more along the lines of what we were just talking about a minute ago regarding where we felt hurt, what our sensitivities are mm-hmm. in our relationship with our caregivers, our parents.
It doesn't matter which parent.
Correct.
It just matters, if there was something within that relationship with our caregiver that somehow there was some impasse, or something got stuck, or there was a struggle associated with that. We're seeking to resolve that in our partner.
Yes, that's exactly
right.
right.
It doesn't matter, man, woman, gender is really not a factor here.
That's exactly right.
It's the relationship.
In fact, mm-hmm. a lot of people think that that the parent that we're closest to mm-hmm. emotionally mm-hmm. is where we get most of the wound, most of our sensitive mm-hmm. wounds from, or narcissistic wounds.
Sure,
but not
sure.
Narcissist. It's a whole
modeling of relationships, but the wounds as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more the opposite.
Mm.
I think it's the parent that we don't feel as close with, but yearn to feel closer with, that we're actually more likely to look in our partner to complete.
An unmet need.
Yes.
There you go. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. I hadn't really thought of it, at that level of depth, but intuitively it makes a lot of sense.
And it connects with the fact of when a parent is absent. Most of the time, it's if there is a parent absent, it's the father, but not always. There are plenty of exceptions to that. But regardless of gender, when there's a parent that's absent, like really absent, not just you see them once a week type of thing, but where they are literally MIA in some form, that a child cannot not experience a significant wound. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm healing, or I'm hearing grieving.
Yes.
Yeah, grieving the loss of something that maybe even never was.
Yes.
But something that you imagine should have been. But that's all unconscious.
Yes.
Or mostly, at least.
Correct.
Yeah. A lot of these attachment wounds, attachment theory, is very closely related to sort of psychodynamic, which deals in the unconscious. How do these unconscious forces shape us and shape who we then go out and look for in our lives? And are those people we're going out and looking for, are they going to be, the kind of mates that can, fill in those gaps?
Right.
So, we're talking about, how marriages sort of start.
Yes.
But we also, I think, need to talk about how they sustain.
Yes, which I have a question for you on that.
Ah.
So when you do work with couples, what dynamics do you see that seems to help couples either stay together and or feel more fulfilled in their relationship, in their bond?
I find that the couples that stay together or that just have joy in the relationship are the couples that they're playful. They come in, and it's funny, I've had some couples come in, I'm like, why are you even here? You guys are great. They smile at each other, they face each other. You can even see it in their posture. The couples that are, really see one another as a source of distress and pain, they'll almost, face away from each other. And they'll be so, how do I say it? It'll almost be like they're timid to open up and to share because there's a reactivity or a defensive,ness. Seeing the couples that seem to do well together, there's an ease. You can say whatever without fear of repercussions, without fear of insulting the other person. There's a looseness or an easiness within the conversation. There's a language that they share. A call and response almost. And I think most importantly, there's a willingness to listen, a curiosity. Tell me more about that. Oh, I'm interested. I didn't see it that way. You want to know what that person you love is thinking and how they look at the world. So those are the things I see in couples that seem to be doing quite well, and I wonder why they're even here.
So what do you think that they're doing to facilitate what you just recognized that happens in your office?
I don't even know if they're thinking about it so much, but I guess they're reinforced by what works. You figure out what works and what makes you happy, and you do more of it.
Okay.
And then you just, you find that path and you keep going down it. As opposed to when you get stuck at a rut, or there's a crossroads and you don't know which way to go. They seem to have sort of a roadmap that they're following. You're thinking more about what you love about this person rather than what makes you angry or upset about this person. So the predominant theme is, hey, I like you, and here are the things that I like about you. And they're able to even articulate that pretty easily when asked. So those are some of the themes.
Okay. Do you think that there's a sense of being part of the team is more important than their ego more of the time than not?
Well, I would say yeah, because usually when the ego becomes predominant, it's all about me. You see a lot of the defensiveness. You see, one person might air a grievance or share an observation, and then instead of the other person saying, that's interesting, tell me more, it'll be like, well, I don't do that, or you got me all wrong. There will be some defensiveness, which seeks to bolster the ego or protect it, but also ends up invalidating the other person's point of view. And then that's when the argument starts. That's when they get louder because they're trying to one up each other. They're not listening. And this was maybe one of the questions I had for you as well, and maybe you could elaborate on this. What are those key factors that contribute to not just healthy marriages, but healthier marriages? What are the factors that help people move toward healthier marriages?
Well, there's a lot of things. One is, one you brought up, being playful. I would say, the way I think of it is like using humor.
Sure.
And when you use humor, you bypass the ego a little bit, and you move away from defensiveness, like you were saying.
And humor is the mature ego defense, according to Freud.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
The mature ego defense.
The mature ego defense.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
As opposed to the more immature ones,
right. Like defensiveness.
Denial.
Right.
All these different things.
Yeah, so humor is definitely one. And let's always remember, and I think a lot of couples, at least in the U.S., there is an epidemic, and you and I have talked about this before, but I'll share it with the world. There's an epidemic in the U.S. Of couples of not being physically intimate. And there are a lot of reasons for that, which I don't know if this is the forum for that, but that is a relationship inhibitor.
Oh yeah.
Because of a marriage or any relationship is a romantic relationship. If it's not a friendship, although it includes being friends and includes a friendship, but it's not exclusively a friendship, or at least it's not meant to be that way. If it was, you would just marry your best friend.
And I hear that a lot. You go on your Facebook feed and somebody will be celebrating their anniversary and they'll say, "I'm so excited to be married to my best friend." And part of me is like, "Oh, that's kind of cute." And then part of me is also like, he's not just your best friend.
Right.
There's more going on there that we need to acknowledge.
Exactly. And in no way am I saying that your spouse can't be your best friend, or that's not even healthy. It is. In fact, it's probably healthy for that to happen. Definitely including the best friend, but it's more than that.
Being best friends is necessary but not sufficient.
That's right. Which segues into, when rejection is a relationship killer, and it leads to disdain and resentment and distance. And when a couple is not having sex and physically intimate, with some exceptions, but for the most part, as a general rule, there can't not be a lot of rejection. There can't, a person wants to feel that the person who they married loves them intimately. And without there being a consistent physical intimacy as part of their relationship, rejection is the natural effect of that. And when a person feels rejected, they're going to be more likely to be defensive as well as going on offense and push the other person away as a way to protect their ego.
I have definitely seen that a lot, not just in the couples counseling, but I might have a man or even a woman come in. I think more so with men, who complain about not having enough sex in their lives, and that leads to that rejection leads to feelings of resentment. That resentment fuels the hurtful language, which as you mentioned, men will then go on the offense and say and do things that will shut things down even more. That it really destroys the bond, the quality of the bond. And then if they think that, my wife is going to want to have sex with me after I said that, I don't think they're even thinking that.
Right.
They're just thinking about their own wounds at that point.
They want to get back.
Yeah, they're not thinking about how those words, that are emanating from that anger are then going to further harm.
That's right. It's kind of like almost like a version of a tit for tat.
Yeah, it becomes
no pun intended.
it definitely becomes a feedback loop, and then the next thing you know, people are in couples counseling,
That's right.
and
That's right.
largely because men are not experiencing the physical intimacy. But yeah, how do we turn that bedroom into sort of a sacred space where the rest of the world stays outside?
That's right.
Outside of that room.
You mentioned about a boundary around the bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very important. All right. So a couple of things. Oh, on that note, though, a lot of couples have, again, I think this is more especially American phenomenon, but I could be wrong. Their kids, up until maybe they're 11, 12 years old, will sometimes be sleeping in the same bed with them.
Yeah.
So going to your point about a bedroom being a boundary.
Yeah.
And intimacy, it's kind of like a feedback loop, it's circular, which came first? Is it the lack of intimacy that invited
or the lack of boundaries, around the attachment bonds with your own children. And some might argue, well, there should be zero boundaries around that as they're growing up. What you sort of see with this sort of attachment style parenting.
Right.
And I'm not here to necessarily argue, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I do think by and large, you have to have as you say, a hierarchy. We've talked about that before in the child rearing episode, where you prioritize the relationship you have with your partner first.
Yes.
And as long as those needs are being met,
That's right.
then there's almost like kind of a trickle down effect for the rest of the family.
Because the family didn't create the couple created the family.
Yeah, that's true.
And so everything comes from the agency of the couple.
Yeah.
Their love formed the family, not the family comes first.
That's the fuel source.
It is.
And it needs to be tended to, like a
it.
fire. You have to stoke it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, a fuel source. Often when couples come in, I would say literally 80% of couples will present as the problem of communication. We'll speak about it in a general way. And I would say out of those, literally about half of the communication problems is really intimacy issues.
Exactly.
Because communication occurs among the medium of how does a person feel about the other person and about their relationship. And they're going to communicate accordingly. They're going to communicate harshly if they feel rejected, and they're going to communicate more, as you were talking about before, listening more, being a little bit more proactive in the listening and open, if they feel if their connection physically is there.
Yeah, and that's the whole premise of emotionally focused couples therapy. It's they'll come in and ostensibly have trouble with communication. That's always the sort of the chief complaint. But really, you guys are great at communicating when when the groundwork is laid and when the connection is there. It's not that you can't communicate; it's that you're really struggling to connect in a way that brings out emotions of comfort and safety. And that's what we want our relationships to be, venues for that comfort and that safety. So that's the need that we can fulfill for our partners.
It's interesting you mentioned comfort and safety. Never thought of it exactly that way before, but that is very interesting. I think it's on point. And on that note, I never thought of it exactly this way, but really what each partner is really wondering in the relationship is, how important am I to this person?
Do you choose me?
Right.
Yeah. Do I matter?
Right. How much do I matter to you?
And then the question becomes, how do we argue about it?
It's a very good point, because that reminds me of when a lot of time couples will come in and they'll say out loud to me, or I guess too, that they think they argue because they're two very different people. And they'll even say, we're very different. We're two very different people. And usually I'll say, of course you're very different people. You're two different people. But that's not the issue. The question is, how open are you to
embracing one another's differences?
Exactly.
And hearing what the other person has to say and what they want. Of course you're different people.
Right.
but you still fell in love with each other and found each other.
That's exactly right. They did. And there's reasons, and one thing, there's reasons why you fell in love. It wasn't random. It wasn't just because what they look like, although that might help.
Sure. That's usually an initial thing.
It is.
It's not.
And even that is a symbol, which is something I think about sometimes. What one person's looks are to one person can be very different than what it means to another person.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they could acknowledge that, oh yeah, that person's attractive, or not, but the particular look could be very symbolic of certain things that they're looking for that are emblematic of certain personality traits.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example. I'm more attracted
Associations we've made.
That's exactly right. It's all about associations. Like I'm attracted to more softer appearances.
Mm-hmm.
But that's symbolic. It's not just how just came out of nowhere. It's because it's symbolic of kindness, of gentleness. Someone who's not going to be rough with me.
This is the narrative, the stories we tell
me.
ourselves about what we see. We've made these connections.
That's exactly right.
With these ideas that we formulated along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Jay, there's a new electric car company out there, and people can't stop talking about it. And we are honored to actually have them as our sponsor. You want to tell the audience what
I can't tell you how excited I am about this. It's an amazing new concept. The car is called the Kvetchla.
Now, finally, there's a car that you can buy and you can drive that complains for you on your behalf. So if you're driving and you are so frustrated with how people are driving, let's be honest, everyone does that. Everyone knows that.
Every day when I'm out on the road, I just want to complain really loudly.
Yep. So actually this car company and this car understands all of our grievances. And it actually made a car for that reason. So we can lighten the load off of our stress level as we're driving. Finally, there's a car company that has done that. And, you can just press a button and it'll complain for you. You don't have to do it yourself.
It's automatic?
That's right. It's automatic.
So I just press a button and it does all the complaining?
That's right.
So how does this work? What is it like?
Well, it senses your frustration.
Okay.
And also it sees if you're in traffic,
Mm-hmm.
it will actually say, why is there so much damn traffic? And if a person cuts you off, or a person is driving very erratically, or you're in danger, or it thinks you're in danger because it has sensors all over it actually gives you the option to curse out the car, but you don't have to do it, so you're off the hook.
It does it for me.
It does it for you.
I didn't do it. It's the car.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Blame it on the car.
That's right. And it has like a little speaker, not just in the car, but outside the car.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
So
there's no mistaking.
There's no mistaking.
They can hear it.
They can hear it.
Yeah.
And you can actually have it in any ethnic accent that of your choosing.
Okay.
If you want to do it in any accent, whether it be Jewish, African American, Indian, Irish.
So there's an inclusivity and diversity.
Yes, it's very diverse
in this program.
That's right. It's a very liberal car company.
Okay.
And what else would you expect from an electric car company, like Kvetchla?
Like Kvetchla.
Oh, and one more thing about
Mm-hmm.
Kvetchla and its accessories and its specs is that it actually, if you want to curse out someone, not only will it verbalize it. You know how on computers they could do emoji like a thumbs up emoji, not just on your phone but on the computer, and it pops up like a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on the windshield, there's a middle finger emoji.
Like a holographic projection?
That's exactly right.
Oh my god.
And you can do that, so if they're on the side of you, if you're passing them, they have it on the side.
You can see it from any angle.
Yeah, you can see it on the side windows. Or the rear view window.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
So we have virtual reality technology
Yes.
enabling this to really be an effective strategy. I like it.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Good.
And then they also have gun noises.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. Is we're rolling down West Philly, and sure.
Well, gun noises in kind of protecting you. So in case, a lot of people are afraid to curse out to curse out other people in the car, understandably so. But you can also have press a button that has a gun noise,
Okay.
so other people don't want to mess with you.
Like a machine gun. That's exactly what we need. Yeah. And I hear that Kafeshla is hiring American workers. They have a factory in Brooklyn, New York.
That's right.
Their new Williamsburg factory.
That's right.
And they've got one opening up in Miami Beach.
That's right.
Perfect, because the demographic down there will love it.
Mm-hmm.
They will love it.
And rumor has it that even not too far from here, in Ballackinwood, they might be opening up a plant. That's the rumor.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what is in store with this amazing new emerging technology. And electric, absolutely.
That's right. It's good for the environment.
It's good for the environment.
It's good for your stress. It's, listen, we're talking about healthier marriages today.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's about healthier. So if the car is actually feeling the frustration on your behalf, you don't have to feel. You don't have to
really
experience
does
it.
make life a lot easier.
It does.
Yeah. So I'm excited about this, and I'm glad that they're sponsoring us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And here's another great thing about it. Elon Musk didn't create it.
Oh, eat your heart out, Elon Musk.
That's right. That's right.
We might have borrowed a few of his ideas, but
Well, we didn't. Confessional
well,
did.
we did. But, but that's okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Sure.
You know how I like to get personal. Jay, you've been married for how many years?
Gosh, going on, 19 years this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So obviously, you're doing something right. You and your wife are doing something right. What do you think works in your marriage that other couples who are struggling, if they had a little bit more of, would be beneficial?
It's a really good question. And I do think about that from time to time, what works. And I think it behooves anybody to ask themselves that, what works in my relationship so I can do more of it. I think it's really about knowing what the other person likes, what they find soothing, or what they find helpful, or what just brings them joy. And a lot of times, since the pandemic, we've been kind of working at home. She works home. I'll work at home some days, and when we're both working at home together, I'll make coffee and breakfast, and I'll serve it to her while she's working, and she'll tell me how kind I am.
Oh.
and we'll laugh about it a little bit because she says the same thing every time. So it's our little inside joke. I do that little thing for her, and she gives me that little response. And I think it just brings a lot of warmth. And it makes us feel good about one another. So I think, if couples can have little rituals, little inside jokes, little things that they do on the regular for one another or with one another, it helps to build that culture of appreciation. So, that's sort of preventive stuff, preventive maintenance, as I call it. But I think also, how you argue is another important piece to all of this. We all get angry. We all get short fuses from time to time, and maybe we feel misheard and we get a little reactive.
So you're speaking specifically about you and your wife?
Yeah. I think specifically with us, we'll tend to argue a little bit. Giving yourselves a little bit of space to cool down, which we do. Now she wants to usually solve things in the moment. I'll usually want to back away and take a little time to cool down. So that's maybe one of the things that creates some tension. our different ways of resolving conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important for us to realize that yes, we both do have different ways of resolving conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we can more effectively over time, recognize that we're two different people
Mm-hmm.
who resolve conflict in different ways. I don't know. I think just knowing that helps us to be a little bit more patient with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Or it makes me sometimes want to go over to her side. I don't know. Maybe she wants to do the same for me. We go over to one another's side and recognize how the other person operates. So, what is that? Empathy, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just after 19 years, and we've been together longer than that, we just know how the other person operates, and we can anticipate, oh, she's going to get upset by this. Maybe I ought to, think about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh, that'll really work. That'll be helpful. And we're usually pretty good at predicting one another's
Mm-hmm.
responses with regard to that. I don't know, just to answer your question, in a nutshell, I think it's, again, being playful. Having your little sort of inside language when things are going well, when things are not going so well. Just working to soothe one another, soothe ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and not take things so darn personally.
Mm.
One thing I really like about my wife is that she doesn't hang on to things.
Mm.
She's really good at, she'll get angry at something, but she's really good at just moving on with it.
Mm-hmm.
Where I tend to maybe hold on to things a little bit, she's really good at relinquishing that, and I like that about her.
Mm-hmm.
So we counterbalance each other pretty well in that regard.
Very nice.
Yeah, I don't know. What about you?
Sometimes we don't argue that well. Meaning, let me be more specific about that. We can be quite intense.
Mm-hmm.
But what works is that we're very direct.
Okay.
Again, I think that a lot of couples aren't direct. In fact, I know that a lot of couples aren't direct because a lot of people aren't direct in their life, and just regarding what they want and what they feel. So we're very direct. I think both of us are very direct. When we think something and want something, we say it. We make a request.
Rather than this beating around the bush, hoping the other person will understand.
Mm-hmm.
You're not making that assumption.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
We both know not to read each other's minds.
Mm-hmm.
At least I think she does.
That is
definitely
really
do.
important.
Yeah. Yeah, like none of us will ever say, "Well, you should have known this about me," or
Ooh.
which a couple say a lot.
I see that a lot,
Yeah.
and there's a part of me that wants to respond very
Right.
quickly
That's right.
to that.
We're not in each other's heads.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very direct. We're very honest. I know I am. I think she is. Seemingly so. Haven't caught her any major lie. So we're very honest and very direct. And we make it our business to be, maybe TMI here, but physically intimate on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it'd be more difficult.
Yeah.
And to your point, also, we can be playful. I would like to be more playful because I think I have a
laughing
sense
sense of humor. I don't know, watching comedies together. Maybe you have a favorite YouTube channel that is humorous.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I like cat videos throughout the day. If I see a cat video she loves, I'll send it to her and she'll send it to me. And it keeps it's like it keeps the
We're
game
the same way.
going.
With
Keeps
cat,
things going.
cats and dog videos because
Yeah.
we have a greyhound and there'll be like cartoon stuff about the greyhound and we'll both laugh at it. We both think it's funny, and cat videos too. We have a cat as well. We both enjoy each other. I really enjoy spending time with her. Although I enjoy spending time when she's not there too. I'm fine with her not being there.
Autonomy and connectedness.
That's right.
The balance.
That's exactly
you don't
right.
need too much one another. You don't need too much alone time.
That's right. Speaking of autonomy, it's interesting. I'm going to bring up something interesting. Last night, my wife told me that she wants to get a tattoo.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
I'm like, this is totally coming out of
the
left
first
field.
tattoo ever?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Neither she nor I
Okay.
have a tattoo. And I wouldn't say I'm against tattoos. That's a little bit dramatic. I have no interest in it. Although if the Mets ever win the World Series, this is a promise I've made to many people because I'm a huge Mets fan. I will get a Mets tattoo, but you
But
know,
that's very that's symbolic of something.
Of
that's
course.
very meaningful
yeah,
to you.
it is
Yeah.
very meaningful. Which segues into why she wants a tattoo. She recently lost her father,
Mhm.
and so she and he enjoyed certain flowering plants, and she wants to get a tattoo of her of a flower. It came out of left field. Usually, speaking about communication, usually we're very direct and open with each other. But although it's not like she's been harboring this for a while, because recent,
Sure,
it's just
sure.
very recent.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but so going back to the reason why I brought this up is because of the theme of autonomy, and my first instinct is like, I don't want to get a tattoo. Hard to get a tattoo. I think that's because of my own preconceived notions of tattoos and stuff. But it's her body. Obviously, if something was absurd and indicative of something problematic, I
Yeah,
would say
if
something.
if she were to maybe get a I don't know a face tattoo or something like that.
Right, that's a good point.
Then how does that I guess the question is how does it affect me?
Right.
What choice
Exactly
am I
right.
to
And it's her body.
Yeah.
Her body, her choice.
Yeah.
As
Yep.
as the saying goes regarding other
Sure.
issues,
Yeah.
other political issues.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we ever get sick of each other. Like a lot of couples do, but I don't think we ever get sick of each other. So we enjoy each
Yeah.
other.
And that's the killer, the contempt.
Mhm.
When I see you, I associate you with these feelings of repulsion. That's something to that needs to be addressed if it's
Right.
happening. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because you want to associate this person again with safety, with comfort, with joy,
Mm-hmm.
fulfillment.
Yes.
The person that you want to spend the rest of your life with is somebody you should want to spend the rest of your life with, every day with,
Yep. That's right.
because you have fun together.
Something else that's actually very important that I was thinking about earlier in our conversation in this podcast, this episode, that applies here too. Physical healthiness too, not just physical intimacy,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
we both exercise almost daily, if not sometimes daily, and we both value that healthiness. And
It's you're matching energy.
Yes.
In a sense, you're on the
Yes.
same energetic level,
Mhm.
even biologically.
that's a really good way of putting it, because it applies to both us physically being fit, relatively fit, and we're both active, even like we want to get things done. We want to get crap done.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people. Some people are just more laid back, and we're both go-getters. I mean, our
Yeah.
parents say we're two peas in a pod in that way.
And as long as there's a complementarity there, then it works. You can have two couples that are laid back, and they don't care about the latest, greatest, whatever renovation, as long as you have shared values on that.
And of course, all of this that we've talked about today applies to couples of all types. I don't know if that's the best
It's
way to put it.
pretty cross cultural.
It's-
Some of these.
Well, it's cross. Actually, it might not be cross-cultural.
Might not be.
No, it depends. So, for example, it could be. It's mostly cross-cultural in Western, because
In
these
Western.
are modern relationships. So,
More
for
more
example,
egalitarian relationships. I think we're kind of speaking
Yes,
to,
that's
because we
exactly
know that
right.
that's not always the case in a lot of other.
That's right. Not arranged,
cultures,
nothing
right.
where this doesn't necessarily apply to any arranged types of marriages, or in certain cultures that where it's not romance that's the main driver.
Right. But for the typical sort of Western,
Yes.
even certainly American family, these are sort of the elements.
Yes.
that make these
and
relationships work.
European and probably most and
Western
Latin,
Europe,
yeah.
some of the Latin American
Mhm.
culture
But
countries.
I was also thinking in terms of sexual orientation as well as whether it be sexuality as well as I was speaking of
Yeah,
in
there's a
terms
lot of
diversity.
heteronormativity in the conversation that we're having. I think we're talking about men and women, but I think by and large gay couples, lesbian couples probably experience a lot of the same things. There may be some nuances,
Right.
That are different,
Right.
but
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything I can't remember because I
Yeah.
have to look back at the at this to see, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head of the things we've talked about that wouldn't also apply to same-sex couples.
yeah, at least to a very large degree.
Mm-hmm. Well, lively discussion.
Yes, yeah, I enjoyed it as always.
Mm-hmm.
I gained something from it. Had fun with it,
Yeah, me too.
and until next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And stay tuned for our next sponsor,
On.
To Shrink the World.
Thank you.
What do you think?
It's good.
All right. So how do you want to do this? How do you want to do the confessional thing?
Let me
We should probably go back and
make sure everything's rolling.
Okay.
Which it is.
Oh, good.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, you see me? Okay.
Should we stop and start, or just keep rolling?
Well, as long as do you know how to edit? You know how to edit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you know how to edit, then
I mean, I'm not as good at an editor as Harrison. He's got he's got some skill with that, but I can, I was able to cut some stuff out,
okay.
splice and do all that stuff.
Okay, good.
I can do very basic editing.
Okay.